Today we're going to talk about something remarkable, the art of total life transformation. And not just any transformation, but specifically how to transform your life in 2025 using 10 fundamental rules that I've discovered over decades of studying success and human potential. You see, what's fascinating about transformation is that most people want better lives, but they don't understand the rules of the game they're playing. Isn't that interesting? They're trying to win a game without knowing the rules, and that's why we're here today. Let me share these 10 powerful rules with you, and pay special attention because each one builds upon the other. They're like steps on a ladder. Miss one, and the climb becomes much more difficult. Rule number one of radical responsibility. Now, this is crucial, so write this down. Your life today is the sum total of all the decisions you've made up to this point. Not some of them, all of them. Isn't that fascinating? You see, most people want to blame their circumstances, their background, the economy, their boss, their spouse, their parents, anybody but themselves. But successful people, they've learned something profound. They've learned that life responds not to who's right, but to who's responsible. Let me tell you something powerful about responsibility. It's not just about taking blame, it's about taking control. When you take total responsibility for your life, you take total control of your life. Most people don't want to hear this, but your life will never change until you accept that everything in your life exists because you either created it, promoted it, or allowed it. Rule number two, the rule deliberate direction. This is fascinating. You see, most people are drifting through life like a leaf in the wind, and then they wonder why they end up in places they never intended to be. You must decide where you're going, specifically, precisely, written down. I always tell people, if you don't have written goals, you're not serious. That's not a judgment, that's just a fact. It's like trying to hit a target that doesn't exist. Won't work, never has, never will. Here's what's interesting about direction. It's not enough to know what you want, you must know why you want it. Why is it you out of bed at 5 a.m. when everyone else is sleeping? Why is it what keeps you going when everything and everyone else tells you to quit? Rule number three, the rule of consistent growth. Now pay attention here because this is crucial. Your income rarely exceeds your personal development. Think about that. Your success rarely exceeds your self-development. Your life rarely exceeds your learning. Most people think success is about finding the right opportunity. But here's what's fascinating. Opportunity is everywhere. The real question is, are you ready for it? Have you developed yourself enough to recognize it and seize it when it appears? You know what I find interesting? Most people spend more time planning their vacation than planning their education. They spend more time planning their weekends than planning their personal growth. Isn't that fascinating? Let me tell you something profound about growth. It must be systematic and consistent. Reading one book won't change your life. Going to one seminar won't transform your future. But reading one book per week, attending regular seminars, consistently investing in your personal development, that's what creates lasting change. Rule number four, the rule of disciplined execution. Now this is where most people fall short. They have the knowledge, they have the goals, but they lack the discipline to execute. Let me tell you something fascinating about discipline. It's the bridge between goals and accomplishment. You see, most people are waiting to feel motivated before they take action. But here's what successful people know. Motivation is a result of action, not the cause of it. You don't wait until you feel like doing something. You do it until you feel like doing it. Isn't that interesting? Let me share something profound about discipline. Discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. Think about that. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret is permanent. Which one will you choose? Here's what's fascinating about execution. It's not about doing extraordinary things. It's about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. It's about doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. Rule number 5, The rule of environmental design. This is crucial, so pay attention. Your environment will either inspire you or expire you. Most people try to change their lives without changing their environment. Won't work. Never has, never will. You see, if you want to transform your life, you must transform your environment. Your income will rarely exceed the average income of your 5 closest friends. Your health habits will mirror those of your social circle. Your ambition will be limited or liberated by those around you. Let me tell you something powerful about environment. It's not just about physical space. It's about mental space too. What are you feeding your mind? What conversations are you having? What books are you reading? What shows are you watching? Everything counts. Rule number 6, the rule of financial intelligence. Now this is fascinating. Most people work 40 years to become financially independent, but they never make it. Why? Because they never learned the rules of money. They know how to work for money, but they don't know how to make money work for them. Here's what's interesting about money. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. I've met people who make a fortune but can't keep 2 nickels together. And I've met people with modest incomes who build substantial wealth. The difference. Financial intelligence. Let me share something profound about wealth building. Most people try to build wealth through one income source. But wealthy people, they understand something fascinating. They understand that multiple streams of income aren't just nice to have. You see, your main source of income makes you a living, but your multiple sources of income make you a fortune. Isn't that interesting? The average millionaire has 7 different streams of income. 7. How many do you have? Rule number 6, the rule time mastery. This is crucial, you see. We all have the same 24 hours, but some people make a fortune with their time while others make excuses. The difference isn't time. We all have the same amount. The difference is in how we use it. Here's what's fascinating about time. You can't manage time. You can only manage activities. Time moves forward regardless of what you do. The key is to manage your activities within the time you have. Let me tell you something powerful about time management. Most people major in minor things. They spend their best hours on their worst activities. They give their prime time to things that don't produce prime results. Isn't that interesting? Rule number F, the rule of value creation. Now, this is where it gets fascinating. Your income is directly proportional to the value you create in the marketplace. Most people are trying to get more without becoming more. Won't work, never has, never will. Let me tell you something profound about value creation. The marketplace pays for value. It doesn't pay for time. It pays for value. That's why some people make more in an hour than others make in a year. The difference isn't time. It's value. You see, most people are asking, what can I get? But successful people, they ask a different question. They ask, what can I give? What value can I create? How can I serve more people in a better way? Isn't that interesting? Here's what's fascinating about value. It's not just about what you know, it's about what you do with what you know. Knowledge isn't power, it's potential power. The power comes from taking action on what you know. Rule number 9, the rule of strategic relationships. Pay special attention here because this is crucial. Your network determines your net worth. Your relationships will either raise you or reduce you. Most people just let relationships happen by chance. But successful people, they're strategic about their associations. Let me share something powerful about relationships. There are 3 kinds of people in your life. Those who lift you up, those who pull you down, and those who are just along for the ride. The question is, which ones are you investing your time with? You see, what's interesting about relationships is that they're like elevators. They either take you up or take you down. There's no such thing as a neutral relationship. Every person you spend time with is either adding to your life or subtracting from it. Here's what's fascinating about strategic relationships. They must be mutually beneficial. You can't just take. You must give, give, give. The law of reciprocity is always at work. What you put out comes back multiplied. And now rule number 10. The rule of legacy thinking, this is perhaps the most profound of all. Most people think about today, some think about tomorrow, but very few think about their legacy. What will you leave behind? What will they say about you when you're gone? You see, success without significance is the ultimate failure. Making a living is important, but making a life, that's crucial. What's fascinating about legacy thinking is that it changes how you make decisions today. So that you think about your legacy, you think differently about your choices. Let me tell you something powerful about legacy. Your legacy isn't just what you leave for people. It's what you leave in people. It's not just about the wealth you accumulate. It's about the lives you touch, the people you influence, the difference you make. Now, let me tie all these rules together because they work as a system. You can't just pick and choose. You need all 10. Think about it. Radical responsibility leads to deliberate direction, which requires consistent growth, which demands disciplined execution, which needs the right environment, which supports financial intelligence, which requires time mastery, which enables value creation, which attracts strategic relationships, which builds a lasting legacy. Here's what's fascinating about transformation. It happens in an instant. The decision to change happens in a moment. But the transformation itself, that takes time. It takes consistent application of these rules, day after day, week after week, month after month. You see, most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They want instant results, but real transformation. It's like growing bamboo. You plant the seed and water it for 5 years and nothing appears to happen. But in the 5th year, it grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. Let me share something profound about implementation. These rules we've discussed, they're not just ideas to think about. They're not philosophy. They're principles that must be practiced, must be lived, must be implemented. You see, what's fascinating about implementation is that most people know what to do. They just don't do what they know. Isn't that interesting? The gap between knowing and doing is wider than the gap between ignorance and knowledge. Let me tell you how to start implementing these rules tomorrow morning. First thing when you wake up, ask yourself these questions. Am I taking full responsibility for everything in my life? What's my direction today? What will I learn today? What disciplines must I practice? Here's what's interesting about morning routines. They set the tone for your entire day. Most people start their day by checking their phone, checking their email, checking social media. But successful people, they start their day by checking their goals, checking their plans, checking their mindset. You see, the first hour of your day is like a rudder for a ship. That first hour determines the direction of your entire day. Isn't that fascinating? What you do in that first hour is more important than what most people do all day. Let me share something powerful about consistency. Most people overestimate the importance of one big action and underestimate the importance of small actions repeated daily. Success is never owned. It's rented, and the rent is due every day. Here's what's fascinating about these 10 rules. They work whether you believe in them or not. Just like gravity works whether you believe in it or not. They're laws. They're principles. They're as reliable as the seasons. You know what's interesting about seasons? They change gradually, then suddenly. Just like transformation, you'll work these rules day after day, and it might seem like nothing's happening. Then suddenly, breakthrough, but you must trust the process, must trust the principles. Let me tell you something profound about trust. Most people want evidence before they trust. But successful people, they trust first, then get the evidence. They trust these principles even when they can't see the results yet. Here's what's fascinating about results. They always lag behind actions. Always. The seeds you plant today won't give you fruit tomorrow, but they will give you fruit. That's guaranteed. The only question is, will you still be tending the garden when harvest time comes? You see, most people give up too soon. They plant in the spring, skip the summer, and wonder why they have no harvest in the fall. Won't work. Never has, never will. Let me share something powerful about patience. Patience isn't waiting. Patience is working while you're waiting. It's knowing that what you want is coming, but continuing to work these principles even when you can't see the results yet. Here's what's interesting about transformation. It's not linear. It's not steady. It comes in quantum leaps. You'll work these principles for weeks, months, maybe even years, and then suddenly, quantum leap. Your income doubles. Your health transforms. Your relationships flourish. You see, most people want linear progress. They want to see improvement every single day. But that's not how transformation works. Transformation works more like compound interest. Slow at first, then explosive. Let me tell you something profound about compound interest. It's the eighth wonder of the world. And these 10 rules, they work on the principle of compound interest. Each day you practice them, you're making a deposit in your future. Here's what's fascinating about impact. It's not just about you. When you transform your life using these 10 rules, you transform the lives of everyone around you. Your children, your spouse, your friends, your colleagues, everyone in your circle of influence. You see, transformation has a ripple effect. When you start taking radical responsibility, people notice. When you begin growing consistently, people are inspired. When you create more value, more people benefit. Isn't that interesting? Your personal transformation becomes a catalyst for others. Let me tell you something powerful about influence. Most people underestimate their influence. They think, I'm just one person, what difference can I make? But one person living these principles can influence thousands. One person can start a movement. Here's what's interesting about movements. They always start with one person who decides to live differently. One person who decides to apply these rules. One person who decides to transform their life. Could that person be you? You see, 2025 isn't just another year. It's your year. It's your time. But you must decide, must commit, must take action. The principles are waiting. The rules are ready. The only question is, are you ready? Let me share something profound about readiness. Most people wait until they're ready to start. But here's the truth. You'll never be ready. Never. You become ready by starting before you're ready, by applying these rules before you feel confident, by taking action before you feel prepared. Here's what's fascinating about preparation. Most people are over-prepared for things that don't matter and under-prepared for things that do. They prepare for weekends but not for wealth. They prepare for parties but not for prosperity. Isn't that interesting? You see, these 10 rules we've discussed today, they're your preparation for greatness. They're your foundation for extraordinary achievement. They're your blueprint for transformation. Let me tell you something powerful about transformation. It's available to everyone, but not everyone will choose it. Some will hear these rules and do nothing. Some will take notes and do nothing. Some will get excited and do nothing. But some, maybe you, will take these rules and transform their lives. Here's what's interesting about choice. It's always available. You can choose to apply these rules starting right now. You can choose to transform your life starting today. You can choose to make 2025 different from every year that came before. You see, most people live the same year 75 times and call it a life. But you can choose differently. You can choose to apply these rules. Choose to transform. Choose to become extraordinary. Let me share one final thought about extraordinary achievement. Most people think it's about doing extraordinary things, but it's not. It's about doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency, extraordinary commitment, extraordinary focus. These 10 rules, they're simple, but they're not easy. If they were easy, everyone would be living an extraordinary life, but they're not. The question is, will you be different? Will you apply these rules? Will you do what others won't so you can live like others can't? Remember this? And write this down. Success is not a mystery. It's a process. These 10 rules are your process, your blueprint. The time is now. The rules are clear. The choice is yours. What will you do with these rules? What will you do with this opportunity? What will you do with 2025? Because here's the truth, and this is worth writing down. A year from now, you'll wish you had started today. 5 years from now, you'll be precisely where these rules take you. 10 years from now, you'll be living the results of the choices you make today. So make the right choice. Choose transformation. Choose these rules. Choose extraordinary. Because if not now, when? If not these rules, what? Your future is waiting. Your transformation is ready. Your extraordinary life begins now.